Hello and welcome to Biteside. I'm Seamus Byrne. This is a show about tech and digital media and muddling our way through this future that we all find ourselves in. Today I'm talking to Rob Seaman, Senior Vice President of Product at Slack. Everybody knows Slack. Most people I'd say have used it. If you've worked in a workplace, you've probably used it or at least tested it out. It really has come to help shape that whole concept of collaborating when you can't be in the same room together. We've got our text channels and all kinds of file sharing, all that stuff that goes on in Slack. And late last year, they introduced a feature called Huddles. I love the feature. It really felt like bringing the power of that whole concept that went nuts during the pandemic around apps like Clubhouse and putting it into a far more useful context. Right there in your Slack. It means you get to skip the formal meeting concept and not just keep typing at each other, but instead have a really quick catch up just in audio. Fantastic product. And so we talk today a lot with Rob Seaman about Huddles itself, how it has evolved, how it has been embraced by people, specifically some new features that are coming to that Huddles space. So if you've never used it or if you have been using it, you're going to hear about what's coming next to Huddles. And we talk a bit in general about the place of Slack through the pandemic and how it has evolved itself, seeing the way that whole concept of hybrid work has changed so much and really been embraced. So great chat with a really great figure from Slack, covering all these kinds of topics and a little bit more. Let's just dive in. Enough preamble. Here is Rob Seaman, Senior Vice President of Product at Slack. So, Rob, I'd love you to start, I guess, with the big picture side of things. You know, Slack has clearly been indispensable for many orgs through the pandemic. How has Slack itself kind of seen its own mission as a company grow and evolve over the past couple of years?
It's been really interesting. So if you look back to when Slack was started, it was around a very simple notion, which was to fundamentally change how people work for the better. And the mission of the company is to make people's working lives more simple, pleasant, and productive. And that core, mission and DNA remains. That said, like a lot has changed, like the priorities of organizations, the number of companies that we serve, like the digital tools that are out there and available to people. But that core mission of making people's working lives more simple, pleasant, and productive remains. It's just, kind of how we go about that has changed a bit as the world has changed.
Yeah, and look, I think obviously we're mostly going to talk about Huddles today because there's some new features coming. But for me, I remember when it first arrived, it made a lot of sense in my mind. I think I've worked in both global teams and small teams who all work remotely, and it really has always kind of made a lot of sense to, I guess, help feeling like we're connected beyond just that kind of text sense of things or needing to have those really structured meeting windows. How has the adoption been so far? And what's next in evolving this idea?
Yeah, it's the fact. Well, first, to answer your question explicitly, it's been the fastest adopted feature that Slack's ever developed. So it's been amazing to see. It started with trying to recreate moments we used to have in the office that we missed in the digital world, to your point, which is, somebody could come over and tap you on the shoulder and you could have an informal conversation, or you'd bump into them in the hallway or maybe in the cafe. And those impromptu, informal conversations are things that we were missing in the digital world that we wanted to try and recreate in the digital world in like a new, unique and fun way. And Huddles, as you know, is just is a lightweight audio experience that's pretty immediate, and it really did help recreate those moments we were missing from the past.
Yeah, look, it feels like the kind of thing where, it's one thing to, I guess, put the button there. It's another thing for people to actually start sort of playing with it and exploring it. Has there been much sort of feedback from people in terms of, how they've, I don't know, whether they've, done something to help their team adopt it, or any kinds of aspects to how it's kind of filtered out? Is it almost a word of mouth kind of a thing?
Well, it's interesting. Like it is something you do see small pockets of people try, and then it kind of blossoms within an organization. At this point, there's a couple 100 million minutes of huddles that are happening every single week, and it just keeps going up, so it is something that kind of lands and expands, just through its usage within a particular company. And I think the thing you see people start to love is something you alluded to earlier, which is, to do this in like the meeting format, you have to go to the calendar, you have to find a time that we're both mutually available, which may be like 2 weeks in advance, at which point you give up. But if you do find a slot, you got to do the clicks to actually schedule it. And then once you join, there's like a structuredness and formality to meetings, plus videos on by default. And people were just kind of tired of that structuredness and formality. And there was video fatigue, and so people catch wind of that, have their first experience, and you do see it blossom within an organization. Some of the feedback's been fun and interesting. Like, you may have noticed the hold music that's on there when when you're in there by yourself. That's one of the things we discovered from customers that we needed to do, because a lot of people didn't realize they were actually on this thing, And so, we actually introduced that as a little bit of a cognitive reminder that you're actually sitting in one of these things. So it's been really fun to see people use it and get their feedback.
That's great. So can you talk a bit about some of the new features that are going to roll out to Huddle real soon?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really excited to talk about this. I mean, people love Huddles. It's playing out in the numbers, but they are asking for additional ways to work together in Huddles. And that's what we're really excited to announce at Frontiers is a new, more immersive way to co-work in Huddles. So Huddles is going to maintain that kind of lightweight audio first nature that's there today, but you'll effectively be able to progressively expand into a much more immersive experience that can include video. It can include multiple people screen sharing, which is super cool. So from a product perspective, we often use it for multiple people to show different variants of a design that we can look at. People can draw on screens. You can see cursors, things like that. You're going to have a durable message thread to the right of that co-working session, if you will. So when you share notes, files, links, you can very quickly share those things into that co-working space, but it's going to stay once that huddle is complete, and you can go back and search for and find what was actually discussed in that. You'll also see a fun, relaxed environment. That was important to us, is to kind of lower the expectations a little bit of these sessions, so it can be fun and relaxing. And you'll see that play out through, the stickers and reactions and effects that are in there. So you can be expressive, even if your video might be off and you might be on mute because your kids are yelling in the background like mine often do. And you can react to, when somebody has a well-timed joke or says something particularly thoughtful. And you can also pop it out into another window and multitask. We don't necessarily want to encourage that, but if you do want to pop out into a window and multitask, and, send other Slack messages outside the context of that particular huddle, you can do that.
Look, it's funny when you describe it all, it really sort of hits me that, these are kinds of features that sometimes you see them being rolled out as new, like meeting type features. Whereas, you almost feel like by going through the Huddles route that it kind of reminds people that, ad hoc kind of spontaneous meetings really are sometimes, the heart of getting creative and getting a few things done just when they leap into your mind, rather than, again, that more formal idea. As much as sort of these features feel like you could hold a formal meeting through it, but that it's like the basis of what Huddles gave people frees you up in some ways.
That's absolutely true. And I love the way that you characterize it. I don't know that I could say it any better, frankly, but there's an impromptu nature to this where you're like, wait, if we pulled in this other person, or wait, you know what, I have a design for that, and this now accounts for kind of that blossoming of that individual impromptu conversation into something much deeper, and you nailed it. So I don't think I could add much more than what you said.
Is there a sense of, because again, when I was first looking at this, I was like, well, yeah, what is the difference between a video meeting and a video huddle? But I guess you can kind of, like, not everybody has to switch on their cameras. And I guess in some ways, again, through a video huddle sort of means just whoever feels like they need to show something, is probably the person who's going to switch on their camera while others might still be, just having that conversation alongside what they're doing.
Yeah, we want to give flexibility, and we also want to meet people where they're at from an expectations perspective. And so I want to be clear though, we're categorically not trying to replicate the video based meeting software category, if you will. I mean, we use Zoom, we love it. There's always a place for that. And what we're really focused on is kind of that informal co-working, if you will. We're really looking to move work forward, supported by video assets and, expressions in kind of this hybrid world. I definitely wouldn't say we're building it for like the broadcast kind of meeting where it's like, one person shows up, shares a screen and broadcasts out to 50, 100, 250 or 1,000 people. For like intimate teams, co-working is really what this is for.
Yeah. And so is it right as well that, if someone flicks on the video that it will sort of stay in quite a small little box down in that bottom corner where Huddles live, so that it's almost like, again, it's not about taking over, but just sort of sitting there in quite an informal sense?
So that's how it can start. So you start in the bottom left. You can turn on audio. You can opt into video, and it will stay down there. But now we're giving you the ability to expand that into a window that effectively takes over the whole screen and pop it out if you want to. But it does start, with that same kind of user interaction. Then you can turn on video. Then you can expand, and then you can start sharing. You can start sharing links, files, and things like that.
Yeah, cool. It'd be good to talk a little bit more about sort of the thread aspect, because again, it's like, okay, yep, you turn it on, you're having a chat, but it is true that sometimes you kind of need to share something, or, you don't want to forget something that came up. So, talk a little bit more about, making sure that I guess that thread sticks around. Yeah,
I mean, that was really important to us for like our usage, and we've seen it as we talk to customers as well. It's like you're in one of these sessions and say Ethan shares with me this link to, something I hadn't heard of before, but does it in the context of that huddle. If it's ephemeral and disappears, and 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh, I remember Ethan shared that with me. I could DM him, but that's a, little context switch and distraction for him. And so, having all of that information that's shared in that particular session be stored back and searchable was one of the most important things for us to nail. And we're seeing it play out. Like, we love it in our own internal usage, and the pilot group of customers loves it as well, because it's, again, that shared context knowledge that's searchable.
I might also get you to, dig into the emoji side of it a little bit more again there as well. So, how does it look? How does that work? How have you, I guess, tried to make sure that it just flows, organically as part of just having these kinds of quick catch-ups? Yeah.
It was important to us. I think it's part of our DNA and culture to create new ways of work, but also allow for people to be expressive and have fun while they're doing it, and so the emojis, will show up. You've basically got multiple options. I should take a step back. So you've got stickers, so that if you want to give a thumbs up or raise your hand, you can do that. You've got emojis that will, as you elect to use those, will show up kind of in the bottom right. And as people add them, it'll give the speaker some indication of how people are reacting. And then you've got more expressive reactions, which actually come with effects, things like applause. So if you do the applause effect, it'll actually have a lightweight sound, and with clapping hands above the screen. Similarly with hearts, it'll so it just allows you to kind of interject those moments of personality, expression, and fun, that we think teams will really enjoy as they're co-working together. If your cat's going crazy or your kids are doing that, and you're on mute, it gives you really an option to engage in the conversation.
Yeah. I feel like some of that also, potentially makes a very quick, like, birthday cheer for somebody work really nicely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're in the middle of a session and somebody calls out that it's their anniversary this weekend, it's a really easy way to celebrate it.
I wish we're on Slack right now. It's my anniversary today. So, everyone could be, spraying some love my way.
Congratulations. I'd be giving you the heart reaction. So
excellent. So I'd love your thoughts on any kind of tips you might have for, how people can, embrace Huddles if they haven't yet? Make it part of their daily routine. Are you hearing anything about people making it a part of a certain moment in their day, or they really are kind of just, it is just as organic, I guess, as it may be?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a couple of things I would say, like it's a little bit of chicken and the egg, right? So I have a lot less meetings than I used to because we use Huddles, right? And so now I have a lot more free time in my calendar where I can just huddle, my peers or my coworkers, and so it's a little bit of chicken. It's a little bit of chicken and the egg, right? For those first ones, when you're trying to schedule a meeting with somebody that you routinely work with and you can't find time, DMing them and saying, hey, you got a minute for a quick huddle? I will say that's something that everybody can try is just, DM somebody and see if they're available for a huddle. And if they are, just turn it on. And generally from that point forward, it kind of sticks, And I think it's also good for one-on-ones. If you have a one-on-one with somebody and you want to go for a walk, as an example, and you don't want the pressure of video, I would say turn on Huddles, go for a walk, and get some exercise. I think you'll be really impressed with the audio quality. And then as it becomes a core part of kind of how you work, then you'll start to expand into these newer features that we're adding.
Yeah, I really like that idea, actually. Yeah, just a nice walk and talk, is a bit of an office classic, and being able to do that with your phone in your pocket and your earbuds in, that's actually, a really nice idea. Just a wrap-up question given the time, but, do you feel like, what are the ways that people who love trying to keep up with, or, maybe they didn't even realize that they can keep an eye on what's going to be new to Slack soon? Is there a roadmap out there they can follow, or is there a best channel to keep an eye on Slack through?
So, I mean, we're super excited about our What's New page. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So if you go to, Rebecca, keep me honest here, I think it's slack.com/what's new. That'll show you everything that we've released recently. We ship updates to Slack very, very frequently. And so you'll often see new features or slight changes to features that you use every day, daily, weekly, monthly, et cetera. And so if you go to, slack.com/what's new, you'll see what we've released most recently that could be affecting you and you could be using. Another way that we do that is we actually use Slack Connect with our admins, and we publish a newsletter out to our admins with what's coming. And then we are always listening to our customers. So we get myriad feedback through /feedback in Slack. We also have a number of customers that we talk to on a routine basis to figure out, how we get the nuances of these things that we're building right. And so I would encourage everybody to go check that out.
Excellent. And look, I remember my other question.
All right, let's go for it.
I've not had when you can share a channel with another company you work with. Do Huddles work across that sort of version of things? They
do, absolutely. So that's Slack Connect that you're referring to. So the ability to have a shared channel outside of your organization with a customer, vendor, or partner. Huddles absolutely work in that. I'm super excited about that. I work on Slack Connect as well. And, the promise of, this new co-working space to be able to have these like intimate co-working meetings with your customers or your vendors. Imagine running like a QBR through something like this, and so, it's really exciting to think about the promise of this going across, the bounds of two entities.
Yeah, I think even more than just internally, being able to align diaries, with partners and customers can be pretty tricky sometimes. So it makes a lot of sense to be able to use Huddles in that context.
Yeah, I mean, just hop on a Huddle and be like, "Are you free?" You know what I mean? And just line up diaries as you mentioned would be great.
Look, that's really excellent. Thanks so much. Is there anything I've missed, or any other thoughts you want to leave people with?
I mean, we continue to focus on helping people get through this transition in work and to this more digital first world. And, we'll continue to be doing this. We're super excited about, the new co-working features within Huddles, but I think you can expect to see us continue to focus on ways to help people be more pleasant and productive, but in a way that gives them more flexibility in where, when, and how they work.
Well, look, thank you so much for all the hard work you've been doing to break the 30-minute window barrier in my diary and let things happen a little bit more organically. It's great.
That's awesome. Glad to hear it.